In this segment of the Envision Tomorrow Plus training series, I'm going to talk about the scenario spreadsheet, or it is often called the ET Plus summary spreadsheet. Keep in mind as we go through the spreadsheet that the pink tabs are input tabs or places to enter assumptions about your community. The dark blue tabs are output tabs, and the light blue tabs are reference tabs. Let's take a look at the scenario spreadsheet now. There are a lot of tabs that in the Envision Tomorrow Plus scenario spreadsheet model. I'm going to start here by looking at the existing land use tab. Now remember, the pink cells are input cells, and in this existing land use tab there are many places where you can enter information about your community as it is right now, as it exists. For example, right here we could enter the number of existing housing units. Right here we could enter the number of existing jobs in our study area. Here we could enter the existing population for our study area. The next tab we should probably concern ourselves with is the Building Inputs tab. On the Building Inputs tab, we can make a tie between our building prototype library and our scenario spreadsheet. So this button right here, the Load Buttons building, if we hit that and then go out and we go out and find our building prototype library, we can choose the type of buildings that we want to add to our scenario spreadsheet, and we can add them. It'll jump through a little process like this, and at that point the buildings have been added into our scenario spreadsheet, and all of the assumptions that have come along with the building prototypes that we entered when we calibrated our building prototypes to our community. The next tab we're going to look at is called Households and Income, and there are a few inputs there that we need to concern ourselves with. One would be household size. Put your local average household size in this cell right here. The other would be the maximum household size for each type of housing unit, whether it's multifamily, single family, townhome, or mobile home. The next tab we need to concern ourselves with is called the Dev Type Streets tab. And on that tab you do a few different things, but in this column here, in column B, you enter the development type names that you wish to use in your community, whether they're town center, metropolitan center, or so forth. I've got some in mind. I've got some form-based code development type names in, but you're also going to make assumptions about those development types, whether it's block widths and lengths, number of drive lanes that are associated with the development type, driveway width, on-street parking, bike lanes, sidewalk width, landscaping width, percent of cul-de-sacs, all some key assumptions that you're going to make for your development types. The next tab I'm looking at is called the Dev Type Building Mix tab, and on that tab we're going to create our development types by mixing the building prototypes. So in column A here we have our development type names, and we need to decide what percent mix of buildings makes up that development type. So for example, I have my development type core C, and I have decided that that's going to be made up of 20% mixed use residential 15-story owner buildings. It's going to be made up of 30% residential 5 owner buildings. It's going to be made up of 20% general stoop buildings, owner buildings, and it's also going to be made up of 30% general stoop rental buildings. So you can mix and match those however you want. They do need to add up to 100%. And I'm also going to look at the summary tabs. Now the summary tabs, this summary new tab, is the tab we look at for our output indicators. It's a reference sheet and it has all sorts of output indicators, anything from developed acres, population, housing mix, housing tenure, all the way down to sustainability measures at the bottom, where it looks at things like carbon emissions and energy use per household or per employee. Now this on the Summary New tab is just what we painted, the new development that we painted. On the tab next to it, Summary Total, this existing column brings in the information from our existing land use when we entered that. So keep that in mind as we look at Summary Total. So this column here would just be the existing, and then Scenario 1 would be the existing plus what we painted in our Scenario 1 to give us output indicators. Again, things like land use area, population, employment mix, density, walk trips, transit trips, vehicle trips. All of these things are outputs that Envision Tomorrow Plus creates so that you can look at your scenarios and compare scenarios to each other. Some of the other tabs I want to show you, the Scenario 1 through Scenario 5 tabs go further into detail about what you've painted and breaks down the scenario into very detailed information by scenario. The Buildings 1 through Building 5 tabs look at the buildings and break down the information about the buildings in a very detailed manner. As you get started, these are the key tabs that you need to be looking at. Thank you.